a forgotten hero in a modern world, who was Saint Jerome Emiliani. Imagine this: a man born into privilege abandons his wealth and status to dedicate his life to the most vulnerable members of society, orphans, prisoners, and the destitute. In an era dominated by power struggles and self-interest, he became a beacon of hope for those society had cast aside. This is not the plot of a Hollywood movie but the real-life story of Saint Jerome Emiliani, whose legacy continues to resonate today, nearly 5 centuries after his death. But why does his story matter now more than ever? As global inequality widens and humanitarian crises unfold across continents, could we learn something from the quiet revolution of compassion led by this 16th-century Venetian soldier turned saint? From soldier to savior, a life transformed. Born near Venice in 1486, Jerome Emiliani grew up during a tumultuous period marked by wars and political instability. Initially, he followed the path expected of him, a career as a soldier and administrator. His early ambition reached its peak when he was appointed governor of a fortress in Castelnuovo di Treviso. However, fate intervened dramatically when he was captured during a siege and imprisoned. According to historical accounts, it was during his captivity that Jerome experienced what many describe as a spiritual awakening. He prayed fervently for liberation, vowing to dedicate his life to God if he were freed. Miraculously, he escaped his chains and returned home, forever changed. From that moment on, Jerome began distributing his possessions among the poor and dedicating himself to acts of charity. He went from being someone who sought glory through battle to someone who found purpose in serving others, says Dr. Maria Costa, a historian specializing in Renaissance Italy, name changed for privacy. His transformation wasn't just personal, it sparked a movement. In 1532, Jerome founded the Clerks Regular of Somaschi, a religious order focused on caring for orphans and educating impoverished children. The order spread rapidly throughout Italy, establishing schools, orphanages, and hospitals. By the time of his death in 1537, Jerome had laid the foundation for one of the most enduring charitable movements in Catholic history. A legacy that endures. Fast forward to today, and the work inspired by Saint Jerome Emiliani remains remarkably relevant. According to UNICEF, there are over 140 million orphans worldwide, with countless others living in extreme poverty. Meanwhile, organizations like SOS Children's Villages and Save the Children echo the mission Jerome championed centuries ago. Jerome understood that education and care were tools for empowerment, explains Father Luca Bianchi, a priest involved with the modern-day Somaschi order. He didn't just feed people, he gave them dignity. Yet, while his impact is undeniable, some argue that figures like Jerome are often overlooked in favor of more politically charged narratives about social justice. We need to remember these grassroots heroes, says Anonymous, a Maltese educator working with underprivileged youth. They remind us that change starts small, with individuals willing to act. Voices from the margins. To understand Jerome's relevance today, the Malta Echo spoke with several individuals whose lives have been touched by similar missions. One such person is Sarah McAuliffe, name changed, a single mother raising 3 children in Valletta. She credits a local program inspired by the Somaschi tradition with helping her family stay afloat during difficult times. They don't just give you food or money, they teach you skills, help you find jobs, and make sure your kids get an education, she says. It's like they see you as a whole person, not just a problem to solve. Another voice comes from Ahmed Samia, a refugee resettled in Malta through a faith-based initiative. When I first arrived, I felt invisible, he recalls. But then I met volunteers who reminded me of stories I'd read about saints like Jerome. They showed me kindness without expecting anything in return. These testimonies highlight how Jerome's vision transcends cultural and religious boundaries, offering a model of service rooted in empathy and action. Challenges and criticisms. Despite its noble intentions, the work of organizations inspired by Saint Jerome Emiliani has faced criticism. Some skeptics question whether faith-based charities can address systemic issues like poverty and inequality effectively. Others point out potential biases in their approach. Religious groups do incredible work, but they can sometimes focus too much on individual morality rather than structural change, argues Dr. Elena Greco, a sociologist based in Rome. We need both compassion and policy reform to tackle these problems. Proponents counter that grassroots efforts often fill gaps left by larger institutions. You can't wait for governments to act, says Anonymous, a volunteer coordinator. By the time policies are implemented, lives may already be lost. What can we learn? Saint Jerome Emiliani's story challenges us to reflect on our own roles in addressing societal inequities. Are we bystanders, content to leave the heavy lifting to others? Or are we willing to take risks, however small, to create meaningful change? Consider this: what would happen if each of us committed to helping just one person in need? How might that ripple outward, transforming communities and even nations? Interactive element: share your story. We invite readers to share their experiences of giving back or receiving help during tough times. Use the hashtag #ModernDayJeromes to join the conversation on social media. Together, let's celebrate the everyday heroes among us. Conclusion. Saint Jerome Emiliani may have lived centuries ago, but his message feels strikingly contemporary. In a world grappling with division and despair, his example reminds us of the power of compassion to bridge divides and heal wounds. Whether through grand gestures or simple acts of kindness, we all have the capacity to follow in his footsteps. As you close this article, ask yourself, what will your legacy be? References and further reading. Wikipedia, Saint Jerome Emiliani. Catholic Encyclopedia, Saint Jerome Emiliani. UNICEF Statistics on Global Orphanhood. Interviews conducted by the Malta Echo. #Global Justice #Social Change #Charity in Action #SD Jerome Emiliani. The Malta Echo, where local meets global insight. The Malta Echo brings you the latest news with a unique blend of in-depth analysis, engaging storytelling, and global perspectives. Our articles combine the rigor of investigative journalism with the artistry of narrative hooks, ensuring you stay informed and captivated. Join us in exploring the stories that matter, with clarity, context, and a touch of cultural depth. #Malta Echo #Malta News #Journalism #Engaging Content #Storytelling #Global Awareness. Support the Malta Echo, follow and like us on Facebook. https://www.facebook.com/The Malta Echo and visit our forum, https://kusksu.freeforums.net/board/1/Malta-Echo. Enjoy our articles. Support us by shopping on Amazon. Using our affiliate link https://amazon.to/3evokes not only helps you find great products but also supports the Malta Echo at no extra cost to you. Every purchase helps us continue to provide insightful news and stories that matter. Thank you for your support.